This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum. Don't miss the opportunity to see The Stars We Do Not See, Australian Indigenous art at the Denver Art Museum through July 26th. This exhibition is the largest display of Australian Indigenous art ever presented in North America and offers a captivating, multi-layered experience featuring 130 works by 142 artists, drawn exclusively from the National Gallery of Victoria's world-leading collection. These works will introduce you to the art, resilience, and depth of the world's oldest continuous living culture. Visit denverartmuseum.org to purchase tickets today. That's denverartmuseum.org. This episode is brought to you by Blue Sky Plumbing. Want to score the ultimate home field advantage this summer? Blue Sky Plumbing is giving away a brand new big screen TV and gift cards to some of Denver's favorite local restaurants just in time for the season. Here's how to enter. If your HVAC system is 7 years or older, book a free HVAC install estimate by July 31st and you'll automatically be entered to win. Don't wait until your old system leaves you on the sidelines. Visit blueskyplumbing.com and check out all of their home field advantage offers for HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. That's blueskyplumbing.com. Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Paul Karolyi, and here's what Denver's talking about. Ever since the election, and we all got to witness Melot Kiros's commanding victory and Michael Bennett's stirring defeat, I've been thinking a lot about Gary Hart. Some listeners will remember that name well as the two-term Colorado senator who was briefly the clear frontrunner for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination in 1987. His campaign was scuttled by a scandal from his personal life, which played out on 24/7 TV news. Kind of a novel thing for the time. Basically, it would seem tame now, but he slept with a woman who was not his wife. 2 years ago, I reached out to Gary's son, John Hart, when we were working on our Lauren Boebert series. Listeners might remember. John screens the requests that come in for his dad, and I wanted an interview. He told me his dad lives on some property he bought outside Evergreen, where he mostly watches Morning Joe and writes books about nuclear war that not a lot of people read. John was skeptical that his dad would want to talk about Lauren Boebert of all people. He mostly likes spending time with the other old Colorado ghosts, which is a term Gary apparently jokingly uses to refer to the other politicians who went through it all with him. Michael Bennett is one of these guys. John told me Bennett gets lunch with his dad sometimes when he's in town from D.C., and I weirdly asked Bennett about this when he was in for an interview, and he confirmed it. He didn't offer much detail, but he said that they do in fact get lunch. Anyway, John made the pitch and his dad went for it. So we had the call. I was pretty nervous, and it turns out I had good reason to be. He's a very intimidating man. But today we are going to share that interview for the very first time, Gary Hart, April 2024, because I have been thinking a lot about this and the old Colorado ghosts and what it means to be part of the political establishment in this state. Because I don't know. I mean, Melot Kiros, will she ever be invited to become an old Colorado ghost? Will Lauren Boebert? Would either of them want to be at all? Or is that the establishment tradition whose time in Colorado has come? Hello?
I'm trying to reach Mr. Karolyi.
You've got him.
This is Gary Hart.
Gary Hart, good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I am so glad to be talking to you this morning. Thank you for your time.
I beg your pardon?
I'm so glad to be talking to you this morning. I just wanted to thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
So I understand John talked to you a little bit about me and why I got in touch and what I'm working on.
He did, but mostly just kind of a headline.
All right. Well, maybe that would be a good place to start. I could just tell you a little bit about what I'm doing and why I wanted to talk to you.
Okay.
Sure. Cool. So I'm a journalist based in Denver. I work for this news outlet called CityCast, which is this national network of local daily news podcasts. I'm the executive producer of the Denver one here. And we are working on a big project. It's going to be a podcast series about Lauren Boebert leading up to her primary in June. So,
Okay. I have very little to offer there.
oh yeah, have you not read the stories about her?
Yeah, but as much as I want to, yes.
Well, I maybe I'll ask you a few questions. Maybe we'll circle back around to her and where I see the connections between her story and what you've observed and what you've gone through yourself.
John said that you were working on a theme of the contrast between my time in office and today, and I'm very good on that, much better than on Boebert.
Okay, well, let's start there then. But before we do, I wonder if I could ask you. Well, first of all, is it okay if I start recording this call?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is it okay if I start recording this call?
I assumed you were going to, yes.
Okay, great. In that case, let's start with this. Can you introduce yourself to me the way you'd want to be introduced on the radio?
This is Gary Hart. I had the privilege of representing the state of Colorado in the United States Senate in the 70s and 80s.
So, Gary, tell me, how closely are you following politics these days?
Well, not as much as if I were living in Washington and surrounded by it on an almost hourly basis. But I read the newspapers and magazines, and obviously I'm a concerned citizen still and care about a number of the issues, including nuclear arms and things of that sort.
How do you feel when you read the news about our politics?
Depends on what the news is. There are some very good people. We are lucky in the state of Colorado to have Michael Bennet, for example, and John Hickenlooper. So we can pat ourselves on the back there in terms of the caliber and quality of representation in the Senate and in certain House districts as well. But I just think I follow it very closely simply because I care. And it would be my hope that as many Americans as possible feel the same way.
Now, something I really want to talk to you about is the nature of our political discourse and how it's changed from like the 70s and 80s when you were in the Senate. I wonder, I mean, I know you're not inside of it now, but from the outside, what changes do you see?
Well, in a word, I would say the loss of civility. In the days when I had the honor of serving, we got all the two parties, most members of both parties got along very, very well. There were an awful lot of bipartisan legislation enacted, that is to say, sponsored by both Democrats and Republicans, and that was the norm. And many of, I don't want to make this sound like a country club, but many of my best friends in the Senate were Republicans. John McCain, Bill Cohen. I even got friendly with Mr. Conservative Barry Goldwater and quite a number of others. So there was much more fraternizing, both on a political and on a personal level, than what's going on today.
So that's an interesting point to me, because it seems like politicians today, definitely Republicans, especially this new type of Republican, but also Democrats, some of them seem to pride themselves on the fact that they don't reach across the aisle and don't talk to their opponents. And it seems like a lot of voters like that. Do you see the same thing?
Well, I wouldn't quite put it that way. I am inclined, as a lot of people are, to think that the pushback is coming from the Republican side, and it is much more confrontational, especially in the House than in the Senate. But there are still resentments and anxieties and simply distrust. And I think that if one party is doing that to the other, then it's bound to be reciprocated. And I think that's what's going on. I'm not saying all Democrats are above the fray, but the ones I know and still know, a few of whom I served with, are pretty honorable people and don't make their careers out of trying to destroy Republicans. Now, there are exceptions, but I don't think that represents the entire Democratic Party. But partisans would expect someone like myself to have that point of view.
I want to talk about how that changed. I talked to Matt Bai a couple of weeks ago about his book about you, and he laid out his thesis about the celebritification of politics. I wonder what you think, how that change happened.
Well, I'm not quite sure what Matt means by that. I don't know that that's a process that is outsiders are doing to the congressional institutions. I do know there are a number of fairly new members of Congress who are headline grabbers and getting a lot of attention for hitting on the opposite party. And that, to me, is very detrimental and very anti-American, frankly. And so I don't know. I think the first part of your question was, where did it all come from?
Yeah.
There was a change in the 80 election when I was running for re-election in Colorado. And it's often called the Reagan Revolution or whatever you want to call it. And a whole host of those moderate Republicans that I mentioned that were very friendly and very cooperative across party lines were primaried out in the Republican Party by harder line, more right-wing people. And I saw that transition 80, 82, and even beyond. And the caliber and quality of people who eliminated the moderate Republicans was nowhere near as capable in terms of legislating as those that they defeated. And that was all happening within the Republican Party. And that continued on. Newt Gingrich, whom I know well, led a kind of a highly partisan transition in the House when he was Speaker. And a whole lot of the gospel that was being preached at that time was very anti-democratic Party, and anti-bipartisanship. And so I would place the beginning of the transition to 80 and the 80s. And then when we got into the 21st century, it just seemed to get worse. And the caliber and quality of the people elected went down, and they were elected more for their headline grabbing than their productivity in the legislature.
Well, that's interesting that you say that. I mean, because the caliber and quality of a politician is so subjective. Like when I think about this, and after all the conversations I've had about Lauren Boebert, I just can't get over the fact that she wins more votes. She wins elections. So she represents the people who voted for her, however she pleases.
Well, of course. And when the Republican Party moved farther to the right, and as I say, eliminated a whole class or two of so-called moderate Republicans, and I could name names, and people who've been around quite a long time would recognize those names. it transformed an awful lot of the rank and file Republicans. They became more confrontational with Democrats. They rewarded elected officials who attacked Democrats, and so it became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
This episode is brought to you by Denver Botanic Gardens Chatfield Farms. Get ready to celebrate Chatfield Farms Lavender Gardens Saturday and Sunday, July 18th and 19th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. With over 2,000 lavender plants, there's lots to explore with the whole family at Chatfield Farms. There will be local music, lavender products for sale, tours of the dye garden with demonstrations, barrel train rides, games, crafts for kids, and so much more. Plus, enjoy food and drink from some local faves like Breckenridge Brewery and Stem Ciders, with options made with lavender grown right at Chatfield Farms. Located at C470 and Wadsworth Boulevard in Littleton, Chatfield Farms has walking trails, curated gardens, and a historic homestead to explore. You can grab your tickets at botanicgardens.org right now. That's botanicgardens.org. And just a note, tickets must be purchased in advance. This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. This summer, go wild for Front Range air quality. Ground-level ozone is created from pollutants like car exhaust. It's the Front Range's biggest air quality issue and a leading cause of respiratory problems. Try these simple steps for better air and save money this summer. Carpool and combine trips to save gas, take public transit, ditch the commute and work from home at least one day a week. And don't idle your car when you're parked at the trailhead or in the pickup line. And a big one, electrify your lawn and garden equipment and get 30% off at participating retailers. It's so much quieter and it's better for your lungs. This discount is available through 2029, but the benefits are instant. Want to know when it matters most? Sign up for summer ozone alerts by texting Better Air CO to 21000, or sign up for emails at the Simple Steps Better Air website. Learn more ways to help improve our air quality on the Colorado Front Range at simplestepsbetterair.org. That's simplestepsbetterair.org.
What do you think the media's role in this is?
Well, that's an important question and point. Keep in mind the calendar that I set out, the 80s. In 85, 6, or 7, a man arrived on our shores called Rupert Murdoch. And Rupert Murdoch not only began to buy newspapers and set up Fox News, but also television licenses and radio access. And I grew up in the age of Huntley and Brinkley and Walter Cronkite, and even the next generation, my friend Tom Brokaw. These were traditional, mainstream, middle-of-the-road information providers. They were not arguing for one party or the other or one policy or the other. But the Murdoch Empire was very much part of this transition of the Republican Party to the right.
So you think Murdoch is responsible for this, for the media's, or like how help me understand the connection between, he had a perspective, he had a slant, but how did that affect politics?
Well, you would know the answer to that as well as I do if you followed Fox News and the way it reports the news. It's nothing like it was before Mr. Murdoch showed up. So it's self-evident. It doesn't take someone like me to point out what's obvious.
Is it so wrong if people want to elect politicians for entertainment value?
It's hard to call it entertainment. There is a reward structure among certain elements, certainly of the right, perhaps a smaller scale of the left, where people tune into specific media outlets, read specific magazines and newspapers to hear what they want to hear or to hear what they already believe. It's self-reinforcing. And I think that's done certainly in the Fox News era. And then there began to be outlets, MSNBC, for example, that particularly tilted their coverage to more liberal Democrats.
So media is just too partisan now, you think?
Well, as compared to when I was growing up, which is a long time ago, but I named the names, and all of America listened to Walter Cronkite. And you would have to be a very trained psychiatrist to figure out what Mr. Cronkite himself believed politically or how he voted. You don't have to do that with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm pretty sure I know where he stands. I mean, he tells us. He tells us
it's
very
pretty
clearly.
obvious. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. I don't know. I worry that sometimes the media is so sensational. Like talking about politics these days, like every election is the most important election of our lives. Every news story is breaking emergency news. It sometimes feels like the world is spinning out of control. And I wonder how you see it, looking back on your career in politics and working with the media.
Well, I think your premise is pretty correct. I've even noticed in the last months, every news story now is, quote, breaking news. Well, you and I both know, and everyday Americans know, every news story isn't what used to be called breaking news. That's just a headline-grabbing TV invention. Everything that they put on the air, including stories headlined by breaking news, is pretty ordinary. And it's just a way to keep eyeballs on the screen. So it kind of numbs down the public. It doesn't take long if people are watching TV for information and they suddenly realize that every story that comes up, however mundane, is not what used to be called breaking news. It's just competitive journalism. So yes, and politicians follow that. They learn how to, if they want to get the Fox network audience, they learn how to do it, and they know the words to use that stir people up, and to a lesser degree, that happens on the left as well.
This episode is brought to you by the Vail Wine Classic. Featuring international wines and spirits, as well as Colorado's home favorites like Carboy Winery, Outer Range Brewing, and Woody Creek Distillers, the Vail Wine Classic is where it's at. While being wine-centric, there's something for everyone at this amazing weekend in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. At the Grand Tasting, drink lovers can enjoy unlimited samplings of over 300 wines, spirits, and brews, spanning everything from West Coast vineyards to Argentinian makers and gourmet local food. The Vail Wine Classic, happening August 6th through the 8th, includes programming such as sommelier-led wine hikes, paired lunches and dinners at Vail's top restaurants, and an exclusive sunset showcase called Best of Fests, featuring 90-plus rated wines overlooking the Gore Range. Ticket prices go up as it gets closer to the big event, but you can save money by buying sooner. Just use code CITYCAST at checkout for $10 off. For tickets and a full schedule, visit VailWineClassic.com. And don't forget to use code CITYCAST for $10 off.
I wonder, I want to talk more about this, like Matt Bai and this celebritification thesis, and maybe I can explain how I understand it, which is that he has this idea that that the media treats politicians differently now because of a variety of factors, but but they build up politicians to be celebrities. And so they talk about them in a different way than the media used to talk about politicians. And now everything's fair game. And so politicians have responded to this and have become more than just, people with ideas. They've become personas, and they become icons and images that represent ideas or attitudes more than policy ideas, I think. Do you see that? And do you see that as a problem?
I don't know that I see it as a problem. I do think, and I'll put a date on this, when politicians, and television had a lot to do with this, when politicians became younger and in many cases more attractive. Now, I don't think the media did that. It was a generational change. It was the fact that television particularly celebrated younger, newer, more telegenic candidates. And you could date that to the presidential campaign of John Kennedy. And if you did research on the average age of senators and House members, I think you would find a sharp drop in the age of candidates in both political parties after the Kennedy years. And so candidates who were younger, more telegenic, more articulate in both parties tended to succeed. And it was less true of candidates in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and more.
Interesting. My mind is racing. That's such an interesting observation. And it makes me think about social media today.
Pretty obvious. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it just makes me think about social media, maybe even expediting that even more.
Yeah, I haven't thought much about that because I'm of a generation that is kind of on the fence of social media.
Yeah, are you not on Twitter?
No. I did have a blog for a couple of years and a faithful following that was not large, but I wasn't writing essays that were sensational. I was trying to it was an educational blog. Here's a new way of thinking about X. And that was kind of the approach that I used. And I wouldn't say it was intellectual. It was just meant not to be sensational. But I'm now the only person in North America without a cell phone.
Oh. So the other thing that your comment about politicians' ages made me think about is, of course, Lauren Boebert. She's quite young. She's 37. She was elected when she was 33 when she was elected to Congress.
I don't know.
Young, attractive, has a way of getting attention.
Controversial, running a cafe on the Western Slope while she and her wait staff packed heat.
Yeah.
Carried guns. So that was kind of a hook.
Yeah. Yeah. She clearly captured something.
But she's not alone. There's this woman called Green in Georgia and a host of the so-called far right. This guy from Florida, Getz, whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of birds of a feather. She's not alone.
Do you see anything new in that crop of far right Republicans? These young, very brash, outspoken leaders.
Not new from any substantive point of view. I haven't heard one of them give a speech or make an argument that snapped my head back. It's virtually all partisan, and much of it aimed at colleagues in their own party. So that's why there's such a turmoil in the House, certainly on the Republican side. very much less so on the Democratic side.
I wonder, someone who's worked in politics for so long and, gone through so many election cycles, I wonder if you'd have any advice for voters who are maybe having a hard time thinking about a candidate like Lauren Boebert.
Well, I know you're focused on her, but I would not use her as a touchstone for any serious discussion about lifting the level of discourse.
Why not? Wait, let's stop on that. Why not? I feel like she's a perfectly good place to start for that conversation.
Not with me. You can find other people that want to have that conversation. I don't.
Okay. Then back to my initial question. As a voter, would you have any advice for a voter?
Vote for grown-ups, and I don't mean that age-wise, but mature, thoughtful people that make sense and seem to put the interest of the United States of America ahead of their party. That would be my principal advice. Follow the news. Be as up to date as you can on major issues. And let me give you an example. There's a lot of talk these days about whether Russia is going to rely on nuclear weapons. Now, I can't think of anything more serious in my lifetime than a discussion like that. And that's the discussions we should be having, not some of the wackier people on the extremes trying to get media attention so they can raise money.
So focus on substantive issues. That seems like a big issue for you. Well, then that brings me back to the media. Like people, those kinds of issues, they're not as interesting. They're not as fun to read about or click about for a lot of people.
Whether you're going to be blown up by a nuclear weapon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would think that would get everybody's attention. It should.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that threat's been around for a while. It's kind of old news.
Oh, please. I don't think you and I are on the same wavelength.
Maybe not about that issue, at least.
Well, or a whole host of them. Climate change, the healthcare system in America, the education system in America. I could go on and on and on without mentioning Congresswoman Boebert's name because she's not part of the discussion.
She was the person who first put forth Mike Johnson's name to be Speaker of the House.
That's probably interesting to people in Washington, but not to the rest of us.
I mean, she's becoming increasingly influential. She seems like the absolute opposite of the type of candidate you're talking about, someone who's seriously debating the issues, and yet she's getting more and more influence. I don't know. I get so confused when I think about her. Like she really breaks my brain a little bit because she does represent something that is genuinely happening in her district, her old district, and yet it seems to be so destructive to our politics. And like, I just can't understand what to do about it or how to think about it. And I was hoping for your help.
Well, that's for people in the Republican Party in the state of Colorado to decide, not someone like myself. We are happily a purple state, meaning large part Democratic, large part Republican, pretty balanced, go both ways, not hard left, not hard right. She happens to be, I think, in the minds of most people, hard right. And so there are an awful lot of people in her own party that don't particularly like or support her.
Yeah, I think that's true. Although she does keep winning these elections.
No comment.
Fair enough. Well, Gary, I just want to thank you again for your time. I think I've taken plenty of your time, and you've been very kind to answer my questions. And thank you again.
It's my pleasure. Good luck to you.
All right. Have a great day. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell Gary Hart I say hi? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram or TikTok at CityCast Denver, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. Thanks to our new neighbor, Bex Q, who just joined our membership program. Bex says, "My wife Ruth introduced me to CityCast. We both listen on our separate commutes each morning and then text safe arrival and our favorite part of the podcast to each other to start our day. She became a member earlier this year, and I wanted to become a member to thank her and the CityCast team for all they do to make my life richer and me a smarter and kinder Denver citizen." Oh my God, that is so nice. Good morning, Ruth and Bex. I hope you have a good day. And you too can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the Mile High City. See you then.